welcome back to Fun with Fountain Pens.
Here's a house. Here's a door. Windows 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready to knock? Turn the lock.
10 school. All right, guys, I have a great pen for you today. This is called a Majohn P136. I have not used a lot of Majohn pens before. I think I may have tried them once or twice. They're a Chinese pen, but they're kind of a little bit upscale from what I normally use around models like the Jinhao. One of these pens, I think, costs about $40 or $50. The thing about this is it's a real copy of a Montblanc, of the Montblanc 146, Meisterstück 146, which is often these days called the LeGrande. Now, the 146 is really popular with people who don't like how big the Meisterstück 149 flagship model is. This is a Jinhao copy of a Montblanc Meisterstück 149 because I couldn't be bothered reaching into the box and grabbing my actual 149. This pen is the identical size. Now, unlike this Jinhao, which has a cartridge converter filler inside it, I do rate this pen, but it is a cheap Chinese copy, whereas the Majohn is very much a like-for-like comparison to the Montblanc Meisterstück 146. This is a pen for a man who prefers to have one that's a little bit more slender, and certainly for a female. Many females will use a 142, a 144, or if they like a bigger pen, a 146. Very few males would use a pen that is small as a 142. Some will use a 144. I have a 144, but most will be comfortable with a 146. It is a very, very useful, comfortable, normal sort of sized pen. The other thing about this is I got this in the sky blue. Montblanc has recently started doing these pens in a similar color to this. It's a sort of the ice blue of the actual mountain of Montblanc. The color of this Majohn P136 is very, very similar. The really big difference between this and a real Montblanc is made with precious metals. It has an inlay and a nib, which is gold or platinum or rose gold and so on. This pen is very much steel. Now, I have it in a fine. I think I ordered it in a medium, but I had it in fine. For those who are familiar with Montblanc pens, you will see it is absolutely similar. It has the ink window like a Montblanc has. It's identical dimensions, and it also, unlike the Jinhao I just showed you, is a proper piston filler. You fill this pen by twisting the piston at the end to suck up ink from the bottle. This is absolutely identical in every way to a Montblanc 146, though I would have to say that the precious resin that Montblanc uses is probably superior to the plastic of this pen. As I said, I think this pen is worth about $40. If you are interested in buying a really nice pen, a Montblanc, and you want to try one out before making a massive financial commitment, this pen is very, very analogous. I'm going to give you a bit of a writing sample to show you what it looks like. Even though it's a steel nib and it's very fine, which doesn't suit my hand, it is a smooth nib. Not the most smooth nib I've ever used, but it is absolutely worth owning. All right, there is a little bit of flex in this, but it does feel very, very stiff, certainly compared to a normal Montblanc 146. In terms of the writing experience, it is fair to say that this is not as good as a real pen. However, for $40, it is worth owning. I like this pen. I like having it. If I had it in a medium, it would be a pen that I might use every day. Because I've got it in a fine, and a fine really doesn't suit my handwriting, I'm not particularly fond of it. All right, coming to today's ink. Today's ink comes to us from Noodlers in the United States and Nathan Tardif, who I've talked to you about before. It is called Black Swan in Australian Roses. You probably can't see because it's a very, very shading ink. And I'm going to show you the shading in a moment, but using a fine, I want to just show you a shading ink used with a fine nib to show you how it really, like you can get away with it, but it really doesn't accentuate the characteristics of a shading ink. This is a swatch I put down a couple of days ago when I filled this pen, and you can see the change in color between a sort of a really quite dark purple bordering upon black, leading through to an almost pinkish color. You get that shading, and it's really accentuated if you're using a nib that lays down a lot more ink than a fine. Now, this is quite a nice sort of purpley mauve type color, but with a broader nib, that shading effect would become a little bit more apparent. All right, guys, a bottle of this, I think this is about 75 mils. They use American measurements. I think they call it like 3 ounces or something like that. It's really inexpensive. It's probably about $20 for something like this. And it is also part of their fraud-proof range, or rather fraud-resistant range, which means that in these bottles, they have a unique recipe, at least to some degree, so that the ink on the page can be linked to a particular bottle. This is a feature of Noodler's inks. It's kind of like a medieval approach to doing public key cryptography, and it is interesting if not actually very useful. Okay, so that is today's pen. It's the Majohn P136 copy of a Montblanc LeGrande Model 146 and Noodler's Black Swan in Australian Roses ink. I hope you found that interesting, guys. I've got about half an hour to go. I'm going to come back with the new articles, address some of the comments in the chat. You are watching SimonTV.